Hey, it's Matt Pinfield, and this is KLOS New and Approver. Very excited to be part of the Orange County Hair Metal Meltdown that's coming up in June. And I'm excited to have Mark Slaughter with me right now. It's great to catch up with Mark again. Mark, good to see you, man.
Good to see you too, man. Even though it's in the virtual world, I'll be seeing you here in just a few months. It's all good,
Yeah, I'm pumped about that. It's going to be a lot of fun, man. You know, it's recently talking to Rudy Sarzo because I saw Rudy out in the clubs, and I'm like, Rudy, we got to do this. And I thought about you, and because I haven't spoken to you since I lived in San Francisco the last time we connected, and
Right.
so it's just great to have you on, man. And
Thanks for having me.
and reconnect. It's just cool. I love your background is growing up in Vegas. When Vegas was Vegas is very different than what it is today. But one of
Right.
the things that I always wanted to talk to you about was your love for rock and roll. What was the thing, was the music that you were getting into as a kid? What are your earliest memories of the things that drove you to want to sing, play? Was there some defining moments or experiences?
I just love music as far back as I can remember. I just love music. And then, when I was a kid, I had an AM radio that I duct taped to the handlebars of my bike, and I was constantly, replacing batteries, and that was like my little stereo. So, I listened to the radio, and then, you heard different dynamics at different songs. It wasn't just rock bands, it was folk, it was all these different sounds.
Soul
And
music. I mean, it
I
was like R and
get it.
B, right? I mean, everything. I mean, that's what I loved.
Love R&B.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I,
Yeah. Aretha Franklin, Shaka Khan, love that. And funny enough, Grand Funk Railroad, in which I just finished producing Mark Farner's record that'll be out this year. And I just it's so going back, it's like a full circle for me. All the things that I grew up with, I'm still a part of in these years. But I just love music. I just love to produce, love to perform. And the Honda Center, obviously this is a dream come true, to come back to Southern California and have a great time with our friends.
it's going to be great. I love that you said that because Mark Farner, I reached out to, had him on the show not that long ago because I'm a huge Grand Funk fan.
Right.
And the fact that you've done his new record is great. I mean, there's a band that I deserves so much credit that I think some people sometimes forget. They were the second band that sold out Shea Stadium after the Beatles.
That's right.
You
That's
know,
right. Yeah, and that is staple. I mean, and the key is music is a part of you, and it's a time stamp of where you were at that time in your life when you heard those songs, or when you're in just constant play, whether it was on cassette or 8 track or whatever you're listening to, vinyl, or MP3s. It's just that's a timestamp of where you were, and that's the beauty of music. Nothing does that except for the sense of smell and taste, that besides music, that take you to that place.
absolutely. And I love that you talked about the handlebars with your radio because I would do that with a little cassette player. I remember when Creedence Clearwater Revival's Cosmos Factory was the album
Uh-huh.
that I had. And I taped the album with a microphone and taped it to my handlebars. Same kind of thing. Listen to it. So it went from like the microphone in the room trying to be quiet while you're recording the album. you
Right,
know?
exactly. Keep the dog quiet so you can actually have the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. But that was what you had to do if you wanted music to be portable when we were kids
Yeah,
growing up.
that's right. Yeah,
Which
we were
was
fighting a good fight back then, weren't we?
absolutely 100%. Those are great memories because that was the thing. We wanted to have music with us everywhere. And I, like you,
Yeah.
was a child of top 40 AM, growing up listening to every style of music, and I love
Right,
that.
right. Yeah.
And
And in Vegas there was a plethora of wonderful music, because that's the entertainment capital of the world. I mean, you had, Sinatra was there when I was a kid. Elvis is playing down the street from where I lived at the Hilton, and all this music. And then, as I grew up through school, all these jazz musicians that were a part of all these groups were having kids, and I went to school with those kids. So I would meet these people. We talk music, and we talk, how to entertain, because ultimately this is entertainment. This is a good time. This is the fun. And that's exactly what we're bringing to the Honda Center with Great White and Vixen and Quiet Riot. we just love to play that music and make people feel good. And that's a key point of what our music represents.
It's so true, and it's a great thing, and it's having those conversations too with people from different bands is always. I remember, it was sad when we lost Kevin DeBra, but when he and I met for the first time, we just sat there and talked about Sweet and
Oh, sure, yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
He turned me on to Spooky too.
Yeah.
Kevin did, yeah, and that's the thing, which is obviously Mick Jones from Foreigner, and that was their band at that point. And I just love music, man. I just it's one of those things that I just it's in me, and that's the beauty of it. I just want to keep that coming forward, and hopefully impress that upon some of the youth as well, to pick up a guitar and sing and write songs that people can relate to.
Yeah, which is so great, and things that make people feel good and make them think and
Yeah,
take them away from a lot of the craziness that's going on in the world. Because music is that one remedy. It is. It's that one universal
it is.
language. You
It
know.
is, man. It is absolutely.
So when you joined Vinnie Vincent Invasion, the story was that like some of that money that was taken because of it was going over budget for one of the records ended up working out with you and Dana, and then starting the band and getting
Well,
to
what
do it.
happened? What happened is when we left, we told the label. I told the label. I said, "Look, this isn't working. We need to go." And they were having issues with Vinny, and so basically, I said, I'm leaving, and I had signed a leaving member agreement with the label, which meant that I had to basically write 4 songs, and in those 4 songs, if they liked it, I would be on the label. And that's because of Billy Idol and Steve Stevens. When Steve Stevens left Billy Idol, they lost their artist Steve Stevens. So everybody who was on that roster, Huey Lewis and all those bands, they had everybody sign this leaving member agreement, and I'm the one that got that option picked up. So when I left VVI, I ended up with basically that deal because they severed ways with Vinny at that point.
Yeah, and it's
So
great, and then stick it to you. How many of those songs did you already have written at that period of time?
we didn't have anything written yet.
Yeah.
We went right into. We were working with a band called White Heat at the time. We came right out and started producing this band White Heat, which later became Firehouse. And then we started the demos on Midnight in 88 going into 89. That's when we actually went in, and we had the song ideas that Dana and I came up with, and then we had found Tim and Bloss, and we went into the studio and started cutting the tracks. When they heard the tracks, they flipped out, and that's when we knew 6 months later that we had a really good record that was going to go well. But the thing is they didn't have a marketing plan. So we said, well, let's hold it for 6 months. So we held that record for 6 months till they could figure out how they were going to do it. And it was a great label and a good staff. And again, it's every spoke in the wheel that makes it work. Radio was on it, and the fans were. If it wasn't for the fans, we wouldn't have had a career. They're the ones that put Up All Night on MTV because MTV said they weren't going to play it.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, then people come. That's how you have to do it sometimes.
Yeah,
I remember
the people. That's how it happened for us.
Which is great. I mean, I love that the MTV was there in the 80s and 90s, and so that it could be there for people to have a voice,
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
Because by the time
that was the biggest radio station in the world at that point. That's what it was.
It really was, and I explain that to people, because I got hired to be in music programming, as a manager of music programming. I was on the 10 people and one of the things that you'll appreciate was, so you did the Hot in the Shade tour, right? I remember.
Right. Our first show was May 4th, so just a few days back, and it was 1990, May 4th. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. How was that for you? Were you a fan of Kisses when you guys went out?
It was in my toolbox. It wasn't, Grand Funk and some other bands were a little bit more of what I listened to.
Who else besides Grand Funk? Because I'm a huge Grand Funk fan.
Oh, love Grand Funk, love Zeppelin, loved Rush, loved
Yeah,
and a lot of Canadian bands. I loved Kim Mitchell, Coney Hatch. There's a lot of obscure bands up there that I liked.
Triumph you
I
liked, obviously,
love
right?
Triumph, love Triumph. Triumph, yeah, Rick Emmett was a hero to me because he was a guitar player, singer. So a lot
Yeah.
of people compared me to him when I was younger.
Yeah, when you did Rocky Mountain Way, those guys, that later on with Revolution, right, which was cool
Yeah,
because you obviously loved
thanks.
Joe Walsh. That version
Yeah.
was great, and I remember I loved their version of it too when that came out. I bought that
Oh
record.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
it was great. Those guys are great. Great band. I love the three-piece bands, but I did learn a lot from the VVI days, which is the importance of being a singer. And I loved, I'm a guitar player. I feel like I'm a guitar player first and a singer second, but I got known as a singer. So, but it's when you're a front man and it just changes everything. The first tour I did was with Alice Cooper and Iron Maiden, two of the best frontmen ever did I learn from, watching them do what they did in that context, because it was totally different for me. My security blanket was gone, the guitar was gone, and it was like, just get out there and do your thing.
Yeah, Alice being one of the greatest of all time, right? I mean, he's still killing it.
Absolutely. Still killing it.
I
And Bruce Dickinson, same thing, amazing singer and frontman.
He really is. I love Bruce, man. I was recently watching a movie with him at my friend's house, him and his wife, and it was great to catch up with him. I
Yeah,
love when
yeah, he's
I
phenomenal.
he's so incredible, and he's really funny too, and smart. You know what I mean? He's
Oh yeah, yeah. And one of the biggest shows that I saw right out of high school in 1982 when I graduated, as I drove from Las Vegas to go see Loverboy, Scorpions, Iron Maiden, and Foreigner.
that's a great
And
bill.
it was at the summer strut jam, and it was in Anaheim of all places. So Anaheim has a lot of good memories for me, because that's kind of one of those things I was like, well, I think I want to do this. It was like 60,000 people at the stadium, and I'm just like, this is fantastic.
Yeah, and Foreigner at
So
that time were probably just coming off Foreigner 4, right? Because it was
yeah, it was just in the Jukebox Hero time.
yeah. I saw them
And
when they put out the second album, Double Vision, live, and I loved them. I mean, they were great.
uh,
You know?
just what here, the bottom line is these are songs, and Boston songs and Styx and all these bands that were on the radio. They were song driven bands, and they hadn't gone into chasing the hits. Even Heart was, I mean, loved Heart, Ann and Nancy, and when Roger Fisher was in there, and I mean, it was an amazing band. It's a very underrated band in those early Heart records to me.
No, absolutely, 100%. I love those as well. It's and they're
Yeah.
still rocking as well, which I think is so good that they're out there.
Absolutely, they're out there. I just saw the Cheap Trick guys the other day, and they're out there with them. So
Yeah,
it's nice to see the music that you grew up with still out there, and they're still living their dream.
yeah.
Essentially.
I was mentioning
know?
to you, like you and I are close in age, so I went and I remember being a teenager and seeing Cheap Trick, In Color, UFO Lights Out, and Rush Farewell to Kings all on the same bill. Oh my god! That was
crazy.
unbelievable. I mean,
Neil was out of hand at that point as a drummer. He was throwing his sticks up into the lighting trusses.
I mean, he's amazing.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
I love that band, and like we all do. There's it's about songs. It's about songs and performances, and it's really great.
and it was rock stars. And I think that with Slaughter it was very different, because I didn't ever look at us as rock stars. I looked at us as the guys next door who had a band and did well.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that. I didn't, I'm not Paul Stanley. I'm not that. I'm the guy, like Sammy Hagar type thing. You go out there, you're just the ambassador of the party. That's what you are. And I love that aspect. That's what I want to do.
It's fun. Talk to me about how you ended up being a Grand Funk fan like I am. And I mean, I love the songs that were pop hits like Bad Time and their cover of Some Kind of Wonderful and all that stuff, as well as the early things like everything on Closer to Home and all those early records.
We just recut Closer to Home, and it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I'm elated. And right where you're seeing me right now, I took this microphone and set it here, and this is where Mark was singing.
Yeah.
It's right over my shoulder in the studio. And I'll tell you what, it's just, again, for rock and roll, people from way back when. It was a great experience. And why did I? It's about songs. They had great songs.
Yeah.
And when Todd worked with them and they did Locomotion, that was a great song that they redid and made it their own, you know?
Yeah, it was great. You know, Todd
Ultimately.
Todd was they had a great relationship working together, coming up with
Yeah,
all those
absolutely.
songs in no time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the story behind "We're an American Band" and how quickly it went from being written, recorded, mastered, and like released within a couple of weeks. The album wasn't even done
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, just threw it together. Yeah, and it was just, and that's the thing, the spontaneous thing of rock. And I think that for us, we were studying all that as the gospel. We were studying all those records and how did they do it, how they record it, who was in it, and that was the importance of liner notes of albums. Meaning vinyl that we were all reading, and hey, it's that guy, and Bob Ludwig mastered that, and you knew all these people, even though you didn't know them, you knew their names, and you knew that they were responsible for being a part of that incredible outcome.
You know, we talked about that recently. I talked about it with some guys, and we were saying how, you're a kid, you'd go to the record stores, you'd read Circus and Cream and the different magazines, and you'd go and you'd see a record, and you go, wait, oh, Jack Douglas produced that. He produced Aerosmith and Cheap Trick's first
Right.
album, and then Rocksteady Management. Oh, that's Kiss, and that's how I discovered Piper, Billy Squire's old band, because I saw
Sure.
that. Or like
Yeah.
Angel when they like because they were on Casablanca
Right.
there were so many different ways, and Stars, who I loved, who like were like a power pop rock band, but they're those that was another thing that's how I actually saw
Well,
Stars with Judas Priest opening with only 5 feet to play for Sin After Sin. They were an opening act, and,
oh
and REO were
man.
the headliners who weren't getting played on the radio in New York. They were, it was more of a Midwest thing, but I got their live album. You get what you play for, and it was a great record because I saw them
Right.
that day. But I bought the
Yeah.
tickets to see Stars. You know what I mean? So it's
Wow.
like,
And those obscure bands. I drove from Las Vegas to the Roxy just to see a concert, and it was Y&T, and I went and saw them when they did their first show on Black Tiger. So they did
yeah,
the songs off that, and then I drove back home to Vegas, which is a 4-hour drive. I mean, we didn't have all the rock stuff. Our radio stations would play it, but we didn't, as young kids, we weren't able to get into, if it was a casino, we couldn't get in to see it. So that kind of made it to where it was, if it was at the Aladdin, we'd see it. Otherwise, we were traveling all around.
yeah, it's amazing when you talk about that. Yeah, Y&T. I remember when they put out that first album Yesterday and Today on London. I love that record.
Yes.
And
Yeah, absolutely.
and only
Yeah.
some of those songs are even available now. I've been looking for the song on there called "Game Playing Woman," which was like the second song on the first side. I
Right.
loved it, and I was
Yeah.
like, I can't stream it anywhere. I'm like, where is that? Where's that song? You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I was in love with that record. I just
Yeah,
yeah,
Leonard Hayes was such a great drummer, just
yeah,
a phenomenal drummer. And Dave Meniketti was, again, I was, I loved the bands where the singer would play guitar. That was what I was always, that was what drove me. If it was Mark, or if it was Mark Farner, if it was Paul Stanley, or if it was Dave Meniketti or Rick Emmett, or all these guys who went out there and just did it. Sammy Hagar. I saw Sammy Hagar open up for Boston, and I was a Boston fan. And when I saw Sammy Hagar, I was like, man, that guy he's amazing.
yeah.
You know,
He blew me
and
away too. I mean,
yeah,
somebody turned me on too because it wasn't getting airplay in New York or New Jersey. The first Montrose album, and I was like, "Whoa, what is this?" Fell in
huge
love with
record. Yeah,
Uh,
great sounding record.
it. Still love that record, and his solo records. I think when I saw him the first time, he put out Musical Chairs or Red. You know what I mean? He's
Uh-huh.
open but
Yeah.
and I love that too. He laughs when I bring up some songs from Musical Chairs. I'm like, don't stop me now, and Straight from the Hip Kid. And he's like, what the? Like he gets a kick out of the fact that I'm
Yeah,
named
Love or
those.
Money or any of those songs.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I
Well,
mean, yeah, absolutely.
that stuff was great. Tell me about you and Dana and that relationship and that friendship that's been going for so many years.
It started in '85. He was working with a band called Sin, Rick Fox's Sin, and they were looking for a singer, and a friend of a friend told Dana about me, and Dana, as found Randy Rhoads for Ozzy. So he always had his feelers out. And a gentleman named Todd Cooper, who's a lawyer there in the Los Angeles area, reached out. They reached out to me at the guitar store, Vesley Music, that I was teaching at, and said, "We need you to come down here and do background vocals and maybe audition." And I said, "Okay." So I cut a few students off, went out early, and that's when I met Dana in '85. And then he just said, "I know something's going to happen with you. I don't know what." And subsequently, he pulled me into the Invasion right when that first record, when Robert Fleischman was going to tour, and I became the singer, basically just like that. I all of a sudden I'm like, wow, I'm a singer.
Yeah, and
It was
you were probably like,
so I'm like, where's my guitar? What do you do? What do you do with your hands?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, because you're so used to that, right? And
Yeah.
probably to tell your guitar students too, I'm going to be away for a little while, guys. I will
Oh
pick
yeah,
this up.
yeah. I said I don't know if I'll be back. I said that because you never know in this industry.
You
And
don't. You really don't.
but I said believe in what you do and believe in your music, and in some way I think something will happen for all of us who are driven. And I think if you're driven, I think that's a key point.
It's amazing. I
Because
mean,
that's
I
yeah.
mean, those, the first two records were killer, and when but you got through some rough times with when Dana got hurt with his hand, and then
Yeah,
Tim
yeah,
dying in the car crash. That was a devastating situation.
yeah.
Tim
It was
Kelly,
it was devastating.
like,
And I think we all looked at each other like, are we going to go on? We it was do we want to go on, and
yeah,
are we going on? And the music industries, we knew it was different, and we were just trying to figure out life, just like everybody. When you lose somebody in your family, and he was a family member to us, he's a brother. And when we lost him, it was hard. It was really hard. And we brought Jeff Blando, who was our sound man, and he knew Tim really well, and Tim thought he was a great player, and that's how it was kind of like it was part of that family. I think that's a key point. If you're making music with people that you can rub elbows with out on the road, that's a key point. You got to be able to get along with those people and be able to put up with their, who they are, and their personalities, and their musical tastes and where they go.
yeah, like Bloss too, right? I mean, he's been with you for so
But
long.
Bloss is a great drummer. He's out. He's doing Stephen Piercy dates right now, and TSO in the latter part of the year. And we have Jordan Kanata playing drums with us. But we're also working very steadily on a biopic right now, which is, I know it's like the new trend, but I think that we just want to get our story out because it's very different. I mean, we're just we're the only band from our genre that wrote and produced our own music and still perform it to this day. And
Yeah,
that's
you did.
very different,
And
very different.
there's so many, like, there's so many different things that happen in you personally with the band that you guys had to navigate through that are emotional, that I think that people can relate to that, and that
Yeah,
kind of arc in a story. Plus, biopics are great. I love music.
I do too.
Music
I've
docs and
seen some
music
great ones.
biopics are like, got to give me one any day. I mean, I'm all in.
Right.
You
I don't know what it is that I'm so driven to know about all that, but I think it's just kind of our new liner notes of what these bands are, where they came from, and who was involved.
Yeah.
And but yeah, Dana and I have had a long, ongoing writing, producing, and performing relationship, and we've. It's one of those things that when we did the first record, the recording cost of our first record was only $16,000.
Yeah, which is
So
nothing at that period of time to spend on a
that
record.
period of time was nothing. It was essentially we were just doing lockouts of a small room that was even smaller than the room that you see me in right now, and that's where we made the record. We rented Pasha, which is the good drum room where Quiet Riot and a lot of those bands were recording the drums, and then we went into basically essentially a closet with two tape machines.
Yeah.
And that's how we did the record, and then it allowed us to have the time, and we wrote things very spontaneous. We didn't have the music, we didn't have things written. We'd have ideas, and then when we did it, we were driven just to put the music out and pick the best melody between what we both thought that melody should be, and there was no ego involved. It was what the song asked for, and I think that's the key is when you're working with other musicians is it's about creating something without ego and just making it toward the song wins and not necessarily the the guitar player or the bass part or the drum part. It's what drives people, the entertainment of it all.
Yeah, and sometimes I believe that true that some of that spontaneous writing is just so many great things that come out of that because there's a feeling too, right? When you're writing
Right.
and
Right.
you're
Absolutely. And you have something in mind, we might have had a melody or something in mind or a rough title, but it was more of a bouncing ball. And living in Nashville is a totally different thing. You'll go into a writing session and somebody will say, I've got this idea and it's about this girl and she does this. And you have this whole story before there's even music written. And a rock and roll guy's like, I got this riff and it's really cool and it feels good. And you write things to the riff as opposed to it's upside down how rock is produced.
yeah.
So
I always
coming out
loved
here
that.
was good for me.
Yeah, I think it's cool though. So, and how far out of Nashville are you? Are you about half?
I'm
hour?
about 40 miles
Yeah.
south. Yeah,
That's
I'm far enough away and out in the farmland and I could turn my music up loud and I don't have neighbors to complain. So
that's a good thing.
Yeah. And as my hearing starts to decrease, I could just turn it up a little louder.
Yeah, I mean I know that feeling very well. So many rock shows, and I'm sure
man.
you be next to PAs. Man, it's amazing.
I do.
I'm just glad we both can still rock and still hear it. We love the music so much, and that's what
absolutely. It's like what Don, a couple of guys, Don Jameson and those guys were talking about, when we're all old and in the homes and stuff, and they say, watch this, and they put on Metallica, and there's going to be a bunch of guys headbanging, it's going to be a whole different scenario at that point,
Oh, it'll be amazing. Yeah. I remember when Don was starting his stand up, before him and Jim and Eddie got the show together. Like I'm talking about like early 90s, and he was dating the girl that was on MTV2, like myself, back in the day. And he was like,
oh, wow.
This girl, Chris goes, she's like, I'm gonna start doing some stand up. And I'm really happy. I love what him and Jim and Eddie have done.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, it's entertainment. These guys they're fun. They know it. And that's the beauty of it all. And comedy and music go hand in hand. It just does.
It really does, 100%. Mark, I'm so glad you're going to be here for this. It's going to be so cool to see. I'm pumped to see you and Dana and actually hang out with you guys, and it's going to be a great music.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's great.
So are you guys working on some new stuff too that we can talk about?
I'm just finishing Mark's record right now. So I'm just doing some mastering on that as we speak. And then it's writing, and I'm constantly writing and constantly doing things. And I have a couple songs we'll probably introduce in this biopic.
Yeah.
But I don't have any, the music itself, as the industry itself is completely different. I don't even know how to put my finger on the magic button like I used to 30 years ago. But
it's a very different world, right? I mean, it's crazy.
It's totally different. And and I'm not the most socially active person on the internet to where I have 1 million people following me, because I'm just not narcissistic enough in that side. I just like to make my music and get it out there and have a good time when I'm playing it in front of people.
Yeah,
that's it.
And that's great, man. I love that. To be honest with you, we joke around a lot. My girlfriend, I'm like, some days I just don't feel like doing social media.
Oh, yeah. No. It's just like, pulling teeth. You're like, oh man, I don't want to talk about this or myself, but that's part of it. And I just started doing more flyers and things like that. But this is a wonderful, thanks for having me on, because these type of things are something I enjoy, because we're talking about what we love, which is in music, not just our music, but all music, and what put us in this place to where we go, man, this is what I love. This is why I love it. And you still have those conversations. It's like car talk. I just love the way the 51 Ford looked and the lines of it. It's the same thing, exact same thing, just audible instead of picturesque.
Absolutely. I was talking the other day about the first car I ever owned, which was a Chevy Nova 62. And I owned it because it cost me $1. from my grandmother.
Oh man,
It was a
that's
mint
great.
Chevy 62. And I'm talking about like 1978,
Right.
77.
Wow.
You know what
And
I mean?
have you looked at that car on the auction lately?
Oh, no, I
What
don't
they're
even want,
selling for?
I can only
Oh,
imagine.
don't even look. Don't even look. It actually makes you sick to your stomach. We were on the road at one point. We stopped the bus at this guy who's a car dealer, and Tim. It was so funny because Tim at that time he's like, I don't know why you guys are looking at cars. I'm not getting anything. I don't want any cars. You're wasting my time. So we pull the bus over. The guy pulls up in a convertible 65 Mustang, and Tim goes, "That's my car. You can't have it."
Oh, my God, it's hilarious. Because those cars are beautiful.
He just said, "That's mine. Nobody can touch it. I don't care what it costs. It's mine."
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I don't even, I'm afraid to look at what some of those cars cost now.
Yeah.
The ones I had
Well,
growing up.
it's a love of it, man. Rock and roll and cars, and just the tailgating even outside of the concerts. It was fun, man. You got a chance to hang out with people and friends and like-minded people, and I think that's the key with this concert at the Honda Center with Great White and Quiet Riot and Vixen and Slaughter. It's just good times, and that's really what we're pushing here.
It's going to be a great show, and we're really excited to be a part of it, Mark. So I want to thank you for hanging with me today, man. It's so great to catch up with you.
I'm looking forward to seeing you here in June. This is going to be awesome, man.
Yeah, we're going to have a great time, man. Like I said, every time I get together with you guys, it's like we talk about rock and roll and music that we love. I think it's the best. Absolutely.
And it doesn't have to be about our music. I mean, it's all about the stuff we love.
Yeah.
And that's the key, man. That's my love. That's my core. And I really look forward to playing music and seeing people smile and hopefully taking them down the old memory lane that we're all on at this point.
Yeah, that'll be amazing. Mark, thank you so much for doing this today.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it, man. Looking forward to hanging with you.
We're going to be hanging. I'm looking forward to that. It's coming up, the Honda Center. It's going to be a great day and so much fun. It's going to be there with Slaughter, Quiet Riot, Vixen, as well as, God, what is wrong with my brain? Great White. I should never forget Great White because, boy, when they came out with Once Bitten, Twice Shy, first of all, it wasn't the first record, right? It was the fourth, but
yeah,
I loved that they covered Ian Hunter because I loved my.
Yeah.
I was into.
And they also, and then on that first record, remember they did the cover of the Who Substitute.
Yeah, which was great because that's one of my favorite songs.
Yeah. I mean, that's the stuff I grew up on.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking of Substitute the other day. I just love. I mean, it's a classic. I love all those records. It's the soundtrack of my life. I love it. So thank you so much, Mark, for doing this.
Thank you, Matt. I'll see you here in less than a month, I guess.
You got it. I can't believe it's already coming up already. It's going to be amazing.
I know, man. I know. It's crazy.
Thanks for doing this. Mark Slaughter, everybody. It's KLOS New and Approved. We'll be back with you soon.